I babysat for my aunt's neighbor because I needed cash and because adults love dumping kids on teenagers. The house sat at the edge of woods, and the treehouse sat back there like a dark box nailed to a trunk. The kids played in all day, then came inside sticky and loud. The first wrong detail was the ladder. It swayed once like someone had just climbed down, even though both kids were in front of me. I stared at it, waiting for it to stop, and it did, perfectly still like it had never moved. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be the dramatic sitter on day one. The older kid watched my face and got this little satisfied look that pissed me off. The parents left fast. The mom did a quick rundown at the counter and pointed at a list like I couldn't figure out bedtime on my own. The dad barely looked at me, just mumbled the usual "don't call unless it's bad" thing. Their car backed out, taillights slid between trees, gone. The house got quiet in a way that made it feel bigger. The kids spent the evening trying to run me like I was hired help. The older one kept pushing to go back outside. I shut it down. He tried to sneak anyway, and I caught him at the back door and sent him to wash his hands. He slammed the faucet and said I wasn't the boss. The little one started crying because he was mad, which made him madder, and suddenly they were both yelling and kicking the couch. I snapped once loud, then immediately hated myself for it. I fed them, cleaned up, got them into pajamas, did teeth, did 2 stories, and kept my voice steady even when they tried to start a fight with each other just to see me crack. They finally dropped, hard like someone unplugged them. After they went to bed, I did the usual loop: locks, lights, check the back door. The dog stared at the window and whined without moving. He was a solid mutt, not some yappy thing, and earlier he'd been friendly. Now he looked pinned in place, ears up, body stiff. I leaned to the glass and saw the treehouse as a darker square against the dark. Rope ladder hanging. Nothing else. I told myself the dog had seen a raccoon or a deer. My stomach didn't buy it. I should have stayed inside. Instead, I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and stepped out. Cold air hit my throat. The yard smelled like wet leaves and old wood. My shoes sank into soft ground, and every step sounded too loud. I saw wrappers on the ground that weren't there earlier, the kind you tear open with adult hands, not kid fingers. Shiny torn edges, not ripped to shreds. Jerky, energy bar stuff. I crouched, picked one up, felt it damp like it had been out a while, but not days. I swept the light lower and saw a fresh piss bottle under the first rung. Clear plastic, cap on, yellow inside. Not old, not rainwater. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like falling. I flashed the light around and saw scuffed dirt by the trunk and a dark smear on one rung like a boot had rubbed it. I backed up and the rope ladder creaked again. Not the wind. A single tight sound like weight shifted. Something moved above me, slow, like a person turning on boards. I froze with my light aimed at the rungs. I whispered the kids' names even though I knew they were asleep. No answer. Then I heard a sniff, close, and a soft scrape like someone dragged a bag across plywood. The ladder twitched just a little like a foot tested a rung. I didn't look up. I couldn't. Looking up felt like signing my name on the fear. I turned and walked back fast. I didn't run because running is loud and loud makes you pray. Inside, I slammed the lock and leaned into it, breathing like I'd been chased. The dog pressed into my legs and growled toward the window. I called the parents. No peek coop. I called again. Voicemail. I texted with shaking thumbs. Someone's in the treehouse. Wrappers and a piss bottle. Ladder moved. Delivered. Nothing back. My phone had crap signal. My friend wouldn't connect. I stared at the 911 screen, thumb hovering, and chicken out because I could already hear the doubt in the operator's voice, the way adults talk to teenagers like we're exaggerating by default. I hated myself for that. I grabbed the kitchen knife, hated myself again, and moved the couch against the back door because I didn't know what else to do with my fear. It scraped and thumped and I winced listening for the kids. Nothing upstairs. I checked anyway. Both kids were dead asleep, faces slack, safe. It didn't calm me. It made me feel like I was guarding something I could lose. I checked window latches, shoved a chair under the sliding door handle, and turned off every light that made the glass reflect my own face. I tried filming the yard through the window, like a shaky video would count as proof, but the screen just showed my reflection in black. I sat on the living room floor with my back to the couch, knife in my lap, staring at the yard until my eyes burned. Every house noise hit too hard. Around 2 a.m., I heard the rope ladder creak again, faint through the window. The dog's growl went lower, and he refused to step toward the door. At 3 a.m., a pebble hit the window from the yard. Then another, not thrown hard, placed, like a tap on glass. My whole body locked. The dog bristled and backed away like the window was hot. Talp! Pause. Talp! Slow and patient, like whoever was out there had all night and wanted me to understand that. I leaned into the curtain and peered through a thin gap. At first, it was just darkness and my own reflection. Then a shape moved near the tree line. Tall, human, not stumbling, not rushing. It drifted between the treehouse and the woods like it was choosing a spot. Another pebble tapped, and the shape stopped dead, like it heard me breathe. My legs cramped from freezing in place. I felt my heart in my throat, and I hated how small I suddenly was in someone else's yard. I called the parents again, over and over, and left one message that sounded ugly because I couldn't keep polite anymore. I told them to get home now, that I was calling the cops if they didn't. I didn't care if I got fired. The tapping shifted to a different pane, closer to the back door, like it was testing distance. Then it stopped completely. That silence made my ears ring. The dog stopped growling and started whining, soft and confused. That scared me more than the growl. I stood up with the knife and listened for footsteps inside. Nothing. Outside, I heard that scrape again from the treehouse, like someone rolling over, settling in. Headlights finally washed across the living room just before 5. Relief hit me so hard my eyes burned. The parents came in loud and irritated, like I'd interrupted their night. They looked at the couch shoved against the door and still acted like I was exaggerating. The dad laughed once, that dismissive little laugh, until he saw the dog shaking in my hands. He went to the back window and flipped on the porch light. He saw the wrappers scattered in the grass, and his expression died. He went out back anyway and grabbed the rope ladder and shook it like he wanted to scare whoever was up there. Then he climbed. Halfway up, he stopped and stared into the opening too long. He came down fast. He didn't joke. He didn't look at me. His face went flat and pale. He called the cops. The mom ran upstairs to check the kids and came back down shaking, making this harsh sound like she was trying not to vomit. The police arrived, and one of them climbed up with a flashlight. He froze the same way, then backed out. They found a sleeping bag shoved into a corner, a pile of stolen mail, and a cheap burner phone with photos of the house taken from up there. Photos of the back door, photos of the windows, photos of the kids in the yard earlier. They didn't find the person. They searched the woods, lights swinging between trunks, radios chirping, and the trees just swallowed it all. The dad kept repeating that it made no sense, like saying it out loud would erase it. I gave my statement to a cop standing in the kitchen, voice shaking, trying to sound older than I was. He didn't treat me like I was crazy after he saw what they pulled down from up there. They photographed the ladder, the ground, the piss bottle, the wrappers, all of it. One officer said they had calls like this before, people living close without being seen, then shut up like he'd said too much. The dad asked if they'd catch him, and the cop didn't promise shit. Before they left, another cop told the parents to take the treehouse down tonight if they could, and to change the locks even if nothing looked forced. He said the person might come back for their stuff. That made the mom start crying again. When it finally slowed down enough for me to leave, the mom shoved extra cash in my hand with fingers that wouldn't stop trembling. I drove home with my hands still tight on the wheel and my jaw aching from clenching. For weeks after, every time I passed a backyard with a treehouse, my throat tightened. Kids see forts. I see hiding spots. I built the treehouse the week after we moved in, mostly to keep my kid out of the damn iPad. I drilled the boards, hung the rope ladder, and told myself it was a little fortress, Every afternoon, he climbed up with snacks and comic books and came down dirty and happy. The first wrong thing was a cigarette smell up there, sharp and new, and neither my kid nor I smoked. I noticed it when he came in one evening and leaned over me to show me some stupid drawing. The smell rode on his hoodie like he'd been standing next to a smoker. I asked him if someone else had been up there. He looked offended, like I accused him of cheating on a test. He swore he'd been alone. I believed him. I'm his dad. I know his tells. That smell didn't belong to him. It belonged to somebody who sat up there and didn't give a shit whose backyard it was. I climbed up after dinner with a flashlight and a trash bag, expecting raccoon crap. I found crushed beer cans tucked under the bench and a strip of duct tape stuck to the wall like someone marked a spot. Not old cans either. No dust. The aluminum still had that cold, sticky feel. Ash in the corner. A fresh but mashed between two boards. I stood there and listened because suddenly the treehouse didn't feel like mine. It felt like a room someone else had claimed. Then I saw the view. That treehouse had a clean line into my bedroom window and the bathroom window. I hadn't noticed because I never sat there at night like a stranger would. From that height, you could see right past the blinds where they don't meet. You could see the bathroom window from the side angle, the one we left cracked because we thought the glass was privacy enough. I felt my face go hot. It wasn't kids drinking. It was a perch. It was a seat. It was a place to watch. I climbed down fast, nearly slipped, caught myself, and that little jolt of fear made me realize how stupidly exposed we were. My wife was inside doing dishes. I told her what I found. She tried to make it smaller right away, because that's what people do when they don't want to panic. She said it was probably teenagers. I told her teenagers don't put duct tape on a wall like they're marking a shooting lane. She got quiet then. We argued anyway, low voices, because our kid was in the next room, and I wasn't about to hand him a new fear to sleep with. She wanted to call the cops. I wanted to rip the whole thing down that second. Pride got in the way. I built it. It was supposed to be safe. Admitting it wasn't felt like failing. I checked the yard for footprints. Mud prints went from the fence to the tree and back. Adult boot tread. No kid pattern. I called it in and got the usual maybe teens. Bullshit. The dispatcher sounded bored. They asked if anything was stolen. I said, yeah, my peace of mind, and they didn't laugh. They told me to file a report and they'd swing by if a unit was free. I walked the fence line with my phone light and found where someone had pushed two boards apart just enough to squeeze through. It wasn't kicked in. It was worked on like fingers and patience. I went back inside and locked everything, even though locks felt like a joke when someone already knew the angles. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while my wife stared at the window. We both pretended we were tired. We weren't. In the morning, my kid asked why the treehouse smelled weird. I told him squirrels. He laughed. I hated myself for lying, and I hated myself more for needing to. That day, I couldn't focus at work. I kept thinking about someone sitting up there while we brushed our teeth or changed clothes, someone taking their time. When I got home, my wife had all the blinds shut and the bathroom window jamb closed. She said we should take the treehouse down. I said I wanted to catch whoever was first because the thought of them still out there, still free, made me feel like I was swallowing nails. That turned into another fight. She said I was making it about my ego. I said she was pretending it wasn't as bad as it was. Neither of us was proud of what we said. That's the part nobody talks about. Creepy shit doesn't just scare you. It makes you snap at the people you're supposed to protect. Next night, I left the treehouse dark, left the porch light off, and sat in my truck with the engine cold. I brought my phone, a flashlight, and a stupid amount of anger. I watched the ladder like it was a mouth. The neighborhood was quiet in that way, where every small sound feels aimed at you. Around 1 a.m., the ladder took weight, slow and steady, not a kid bouncing. A guy climbed up like he owned it. He didn't rush. He didn't fumble. He moved like he'd done it before. He got up there and went low, using the bench like cover. He stayed still for 10 minutes. I sat there with sweat on my palms, jaw locked so tight it hurt. Then a small red light blinked once from his hands, like a phone camera adjusting. That red blink flipped something in me. I hit the floodlights and ran. The yard went white. The treehouse lit up hard, and I finally saw him. Hood up, shoulders hunched, hands cupped around a device. He jerked like a rat caught in a trap. He tried to climb down fast, slipped, caught himself, cursed, and dropped something that clacked on the boards. He didn't even look back for it. He hit the ground and sprinted for the fence. I got there and grabbed him by the hoodie, and we went down in the mud. It wasn't some clean tackle. We hit wrong. My knees sank, my shoulders slammed, my face ate wet dirt. He fought dirty, elbows, teeth, pure panic. He tried to bite my forearm. He hooked fingers toward my eye. He bucked his hips like he'd been in fights before, like he knew how to get space. I kept one hand on his hoodie and drove my weight into him, because if he got up, he was gone, and if he was gone, he came back when my guard dropped. I heard my wife yelling from the back door, heard my kid crying inside, and it made me want to vomit. The guy thrashed harder when he realized I wasn't letting go. My ribs hurt where he caught me. My forearms burned. I pinned him until the sirens hit. Then I backed off with my hands up, breathing like I'd run a mile. The cops yanked him up, cuffed him, and started pulling stuff out of him like he was a damn piñata. Cops pulled binoculars out of his pocket and a little notebook with our address and my work hours written like a schedule. Not just the address. Notes, days, times, my usual leaving time, my wife's car, when the lights went out, a line about the kid being upstairs at certain hours. I stared at that paper and felt my stomach drop through the floor. The officer's face changed when he read it. That was the first time anyone treated it like it was real. They asked him why he had it. He kept saying he just watched. Like that made it fucking better. Like saying it out loud turned it into some harmless hobby. They walked him to the cruiser anyway, and on the way, one cop climbed up and came back down holding what the guy dropped, a compact camera and a tiny tripod. Not a phone, a real camera. That made it worse because it meant he planned to keep it, to store it, to look again later. After they took statements and finally left, my wife and I stood in the kitchen shaking at the same time, like our bodies synced up on panic. She was furious at me for waiting to catch him instead of tearing it down immediately. I was furious at myself for needing proof. We didn't even yell anymore. We were past yelling. We were in that dead quiet where everything you say feels like glass. My kid asked if someone was stealing. My wife told him no, and I watched her lie with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I sat up until morning with every light on, staring out the window at the tree like it could move. When the sun came up, the treehouse looked innocent again, which somehow pissed me off more. Like it was trying to act cute. Like it didn't almost become a place our life got peeled open. I tore the treehouse down the next morning. My kid cried. I didn't care. I'd rather be the bad guy than leave a perfect perch for someone worse. I bought my childhood house after my mom died because grief makes you do dumb, sentimental shit. The treehouse was still there, sagging, half-rotten, but it felt like a relic, so I didn't tear it down right away. I climbed up with a tool belt, checked nails, tested boards with my boot. The first wrong thing was a wet handprint on the inside wall, fresh and dark, even though it hadn't rained in days. I stared at it like it was a joke I wasn't getting. The boards were sun-baked and splintery. That print sat on top anyway, 5 short fingers, clean edges. I touched it. Cold water slicked my fingertips. No mut, no sab, no grima. Just wet. I checked the roof boards, the gaps, the knots where water could seep in. Everything else was bone dry. I told myself it was humidity because I needed it to be something boring. I scrubbed it off with a rag and climbed down feeling stupid and tight in the chest. The house itself felt normal at first. It smelled like old carpet and my mom's detergent. I spent days hauling boxes, pulling curtains, finding her stuff in places it didn't belong anymore. Her pill organizer in the junk drawer. A grocery list stuck to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a crab. I catch myself reaching for my phone to text her, then remember, and my whole body would drop. So yeah, I fixated on the treehouse because it was easier to be mad at a wet handprint than to sit with the quiet in her bedroom. Next night, I climbed up again to make sure I hadn't imagined it. The print was back in the same spot, same height like a kid pressed their palm and held it there. I climbed down and circled the tree with a flashlight. No wrappers, no snapped twigs, no fresh scuffs on the bark. The yard was fenced. The gate latch was stiff. I tried to picture a neighborhood, kids sneaking in, climbing up there, leaving a perfect wet print, and then vanishing without leaving anything else. It didn't add up. I wanted a human explanation so badly, I almost made one. I replaced the gate latch. I put a new lock on it. I screwed a motion light to the eaves and aimed it at the tree. My neighbor saw me and gave me that look people give when they think you're spiraling but don't want to be involved. I waved like everything was fine. It wasn't. At 3:07 a.m., I woke up to a soft tap, tap, tap outside. Not wind, not a branch. Rope hitting bark in a steady rhythm. I stumbled to the window and saw the ladder moving. Slow lift, settle, like weights stepping from rung to rung. No body, no sado, no branches moving. The night was still enough to hear my own breath. When it stopped, the ladder hung straight again, like it had never moved. In the morning, the print was back, wet enough to smear. I said, "Fuck this," out loud like the tree cared. I climbed up with a screwdriver and a hammer and tried to make it impossible. I drove nails into the rungs. I tightened the rope knots until they bit into my palms. I pulled the ladder up and tied it to a hook inside so it couldn't hang down. I left the treehouse with the opening empty, no way to climb, and walked away feeling like I'd finally done something. That night at 3:07, the motion light flicked on. I watched from the window with my stomach turning. The ladder was hanging again. Not ripped off, not dragged, just there, swaying in that same step rhythm like it had always been there. I ran outside barefoot and grabbed it. The rope was damp and cold against my palms, like it had been dipped in a sink. I yanked it hard enough to hurt my shoulders. It didn't swing the way it should. It resisted, like I was tugging against a small, steady pull from above. Then went slack all at once and smacked my knuckles like it had let go on purpose. I went practical again because that's what you do when you don't want to admit you're scared. I sprinkled flour under the tree. I laid a strip of painter's tape across the first rung so it would tear if anything stepped. I set a cheap camera facing the ladder. I zip-tied the bottom rung to the trunk so it couldn't move with wind. I slept with my phone on full volume and waited like an idiot. At 3:07, my phone buzzed with motion. The clip showed the ladder moving anyway, lifting against the zip tie, then settling rung by rung like an invisible person stepping. No body, no sado, no branches moving. The audio caught one thing, a soft exhale close to the mic like someone breathing through their nose. I replayed it until my hands went numb. A ladder can sway. A camera can glitch. A breath is deliberate. Someone was close enough to fog that mic, and I hadn't heard a damn thing outside my window. I ran out with a bat because my brain still wanted this to be some asshole I could threaten. The flour was smooth. The tape was unbroken. The zip tie was stretched like it had been pulled against. The ladder hung still like it was innocent. In the morning, I climbed up and found the handprint again. Vet. Clean. Same size. It looked recent enough to smear, and it did. I wiped it, and it dried too fast, like the water only visited the surface. I sat in that rotting box and felt my grief turn mean. I'd bought the house to keep something of my mom. Instead, I was losing sleep to a child-sized mark that acted like it owned the yard. I told one friend because I couldn't carry it alone anymore. He laughed in that uncomfortable way, like he wanted it to be funny. He suggested a prank. He suggested I was stressed. He suggested I get a dog. I snapped at him. We argued. He got defensive and told me I was being dramatic. I threw him out of the kitchen and then hated myself for it because I knew he wasn't trying to be cruel. He just didn't know what to do with me. Neither did I. After that, I stopped asking for help. I stopped inviting anyone over. I started treating 3:07 like an appointment with something I couldn't cancel. I'd wake up at 3:05 without meaning to. My mouth would go dry. I'd stare at the ceiling and listen for the first tap. When it came, my stomach would flip like I was on a drop ride. Some nights, I watched from the window. Some nights, I lay there rigid, counting seconds, trying not to picture small hands on rope. I tried to catch it in person. One night, I sat in the dark living room with the curtains cracked, coffee cooling in my hands, bat on my knees. When 3:07 hit, the motion light snapped on and the ladder moved again, slow and careful. I stared hard enough to make my eyes water. I saw the rope pinch in for a second, like fingers gripping. Then I heard the exhale again, not through the mic this time, outside, close, under my window, like something stood in the yard and breathed up at me. I slammed the window shut so hard it rattled. I backed away and stood there sweating, waiting for a knock, a laugh, anything human. Nothing came. That's when I stopped pretending I could fix it. I called the non-emergency line and tried to describe it as a trespasser problem without sounding insane. They drove by, shined a spotlight in my yard, walked the fence, and told me they didn't see anything. They suggested better cameras, stronger locks, motion sensors. They were polite, but I saw the look. Grieving guy, lonely house, imagination running wild. After they left, the yard felt even worse, like I'd proven I couldn't protect myself. I called a realtor the next morning. She talked about comps and staging while I stared at the tree like it could hear us. She pushed me to make repairs first. I told her no. She told me I was throwing money away. I told her I didn't give a fuck about money. I just wanted out. She got offended, like my grief was bad manners. We fought. I apologized just to end the call. I listed it as is and took the first offer that didn't require questions. I sold the place cheap and moved into an apartment. I didn't even bring much. I left boxes in the garage because I couldn't bear going back into that yard at night to load them. I slept the first week like my body finally collapsed, the kind of sleep you get when exhaustion wins. 2 weeks later, I woke up at 3:07 to my bathroom mirror fogging from the inside, fast like someone breathed on it. Then a small wet handprint bloomed on the glass at the same height as the treehouse wall. I froze in the hallway with my throat tight. The shower hadn't run. The air was dry. The fog spread in an oval, then cleared in thin streaks like fingers wiped it. The print sat there perfect, water beading and sliding down. I wiped it with toilet paper, and it smeared the same way it did on the wood. Then it dried too fast, and the mirror went clear like it was innocent. I checked the locks. I checked the windows. I checked the hallway outside my door. Nobody. Just the hum of the building and my own breathing sounding too loud. I sat on the kitchen floor until the sun came up, staring at my phone clock like it had betrayed me. That's the part one don't share at parties. People laugh. People want a story. I don't want a story. I want whatever climbed my ladder to stay the hell away from me.